may have been the decade of the greatest social change in American history, reacting perhaps to both the disillusionment from the First World War and against the strictures of Victorian culture. Americans abandoned old ideas with a vengeance and adopted new concepts wholesale. The 20s were known as the Roaring 20s, the Jazz Age, the Age of Lost Generation, Flaming Youth, Flappers, radio, movies, bathtub gym, and speakeasy, Sacco and Vincenti, Al Smith, cosmetics, Freud, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Lindbergh, Babe Ruth, the golden age of sports, the great crash, the new woman, consumerism, all of these and more. The decade began amidst the ashes of the Great War, blossomed into a righteous age of spending and profit-making, cheap automobiles and new consumer products. Everybody seemed on a roll. For the most part, nothing big happened during the 20s. No major catastrophes and large events don't tell anyone much of that. Yet it is one of the most significant eras in history because of the great changes that came about in American society. Let's take a quick look now at a few of the aspects of the Roaring 20s. When You're Smiling is our first song. When you're smiling, the whole world's smiling at you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, through rain on rain, summer's crying. Be happy again, keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world's smiling at you.
You roaches, bread cancer, buy Tanglefoot spray today and be sure. Did you see that? The poor fool, he wouldn't have had that accident if he had been running weed tire chains. Have you smelled your breath lately? When you speak to people, do they stand back in shock? You may have halitosis, bad breath. Buy Listerine today and talk with confidence.
Producers soon learned that radio was an excellent medium for carrying their message about their products. During the 1920s, what society thought was very important, advertising as we know it today, was born during the 1920s. Deodorant and soap advertisers scared people into using their products, though the use of scary, through the use of scary medical terms. Automobile companies began coming out with newer, better models each year to keep customer interested. Sound familiar?
Replace second hand, everything from toothpicks to a baby grand. Stuff it on a rough hand, came from father's store. Even things I'm wearing, some were bought before. It's no wonder that I feel you. I've never had a thing that I didn't. He is the owner and the editor of the Marion Star. He is the trustee of the county bank, the trustee of his church. He's Ohio State Senator. He's the Ohio State Senator and also the Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. He looks like a president and promises to take our nation back into normalcy.
During his term of office, the Washington Conference on Disarmament was held in an effort to reduce international naval armaments. The Immigration Quota Act drastically limited immigration numbers. The U.S. Bureau of the Budget was created by Congress. The Lincoln Memorial was dedicated. The first transcontinental nonstop airplane flight was made from Roosevelt Field, New York to Coronado Beach, California in 26 hours and 50 minutes, covering a distance of 2,700 miles. The first neon tube advertising sign was installed in New York. Then, less than 3 years from winning the election, Harding was dead. Vermont's famous son, Calvin Coolidge, is sworn into office as president.
They called him Silent Cal, but for a quiet man, he did have a few things to say.
Really? I heard he slept through his office and did nothing.
No.
No, he was a frugal man, sparing with words, money, and government.
You might get a better idea of him if you listened to him when he did speak.
Really? For instance?
Well, how about this one? Collecting more taxes is absolutely necessary so that it is a legalized robbery.
Or how about, I have noticed nothing I never said did me any harm.
Good, but don't forget, it takes a great man to be a good listener.
Sounds to me like he was defending his own interests.
Defending, explaining his methods, you will have to admit that what he said made sense. Think about it. When he said 4/5 of all our troubles would disappear if we would only sit down and keep still, it makes me think of all those so-called talk shows where people reveal just how foolish they really are.
Let's face it, his statement that if you don't say anything, you won't be called on to repeat it. It is a thought more of our political leaders might consider. Seems they can't recall exactly what they said, and you wonder why they were placed in office.
Here's one that was a good observation and prophetic. Mass demands have been created almost entirely through the development of advertising.
And here's one more to consider, friend. Never go out to meet trouble. If you just sit still, 9 cases out of 10, someone will intercept it before it reaches you.
We'll hear from Silent Cat again. What does it say about Vermont humor when they choose to march in a parade with a huge bass drum named Silent Cat? It is now 1924. Ford cars cost $300. With that thought in mind, we invite some golfers. Yes, you, state lecturers. By 1925, the first form of TV came to be, but something else much more potent at the time had America's attention. The laughter.
Whose antics were immortalized in cartoons of John Hill Jr. was the humorist of the jazz age. The short hair and the short skirts with turned down noses and powdered knees. The flapper must have seemed to her mother like a rebel, no longer confined to home and tradition. The typical flapper was a young woman who was often thought of as a little fast and a little crazy. Mostly the flapper often offended the older generation because she defied conventions of acceptable female behavior. The flapper was modern. Traditionally, women's hair was always been worn long. The flapper wore it short and bobby. She used makeup, which she might well apply in public. The flapper wore baggy dresses, which often exposed her arms as well as her legs from the knees down. However, flappers did more than symbolize a revolution in fashion and more. The jazz. there were no commercial planes carrying passengers. May 20th, a lone 25-year-old pilot climbed into his plane after a sleepless night and began his historic solo flight over the Atlantic. At 7:52 a.m., his 5,000 pounds of plane, pilot, and fuel cleared the telephone wires by a mere 20 feet as he headed for Paris. Over 30 hours away at a cruising speed of 100 miles an hour, he dozed off once during the flight, sipped a little water, does not dare eat any of the 5 chicken sandwiches he brought. It is easier to stay awake on an empty stomach. 24 hours later, he is still over 1,000 miles from Paris. At 1:52 p.m., he crosses England. 4:52 p.m. New York time. 34 hours in the air, and he sees Paris. 10:22 Paris time, he touches down after 33 and a half hours of flying. He will not find sleep until 4:15 in the morning, and he will awaken as a hero. Charles Lindbergh had opened a new era of flight. Came into their own with the jazz swingers, starting with Al Jolson. Many songs from the 20s and 20s most that we are singing bear 1927 copyright. They are songs of hope and cheer and seem to be written in the times of the rocky events and that soon occurred. on ground already saturated by 150% of normal rainfall. 84 Vermonters perished. 690 farms were demolished. 3,000 cattle lost. 1,285 bridges washed away. Floodwaters flowing into the Connecticut River, raising the water to over 15 feet above the Holyoke Tower Dam. Total less than estimated at 50 million. That's today too, isn't it? And to begin the climb to Spain for Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. But closer to the heart of many Vermonters is a speech from Vermont's still famous son, Silent Cal. He had completed a survey to the state after its recovery from the 1927 flood. From the train platform as he was above the level, about to leave Bennington, he delivered this speech.
For 2 days, we have been traveling through this state. We have been up the east side, across and down the west side. We have seen Brattleboro, Bellows Falls, Windsor, Margaret Junction, and Bethel. We have looked toward Mount Vineyard. We have visited Burlington, Middlebury. Returning, we have seen Rutland. I've had an opportunity of visiting again the scenes of my childhood. I want to express to you, and through the press to the other cities of Vermont, my sincere appreciation for your general hospitality bestowed upon me and my associates on the occasion of this journey. It is gratifying to note the splendid recovery from the great catastrophe which overtook the state nearly a year ago. Transportation has been restored. The railroads are in better condition than before. The highways are open to traffic for those who wish to travel by automobile. Vermont is a state I love. I could not look upon the peaks of Ascutney, Killington, Mansfield, and Equinox without being moved in a way that no other city could move me. It was here that I first saw the light of day. Here I received my bride. Here my dead lie pillowed to the loving breast of our everlasting hills. I love Vermont because of her hills and valleys, her scenery, and her invigorating climate, but most of all because of her indomitable people. They are a race of pioneers who almost beggared themselves in the service to others. If the spirit of liberty should vanish from other parts of the Union, and support for institutions and language, it could all be replenished from the generous store held by the people of the brave little state of Vermont. Thank you.
We know there are some dark sides of the 20s. What we remember most is that prohibition brought out the outlaw in many of the people. Organized crime was financed with the sales of illegal alcohol beverages. Al Capone bootlegging ring earned him about $60 million a year. Underground bars known as speakeasies were frequented by everyone. Secret drinking was considered a glamorous thing, even in the Washington times. Street crime increased as gangs tried to hold on to their power. In 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, 7 members of Bugs Morgan's gang are gunned down by Al Capone's gang. Those who had backed prohibition decided to take it away, but that was another error. And finally, the bottom drops out beginning October 24, preceding the stock market crash of 1929. Black Thursday and the Dow drops 20%. On Black Monday, the Dow drops 13.5%. And then again, Black Tuesday, the Dow falls another 11.5%. By the close of the market on 10/29, the Dow has lost 39.6% since its market high of September 3rd. From that point on, the market continued to plunge into the next decade, losing almost 89% of its value. The market would take 25 years to regain its pre-tax level.
That we kept for last. During President Warren G. Harding's administration, November 11, 1921 to be exact, the tomb of the unknown soldier was dedicated. It has since been a symbol of nameless, ultimate sacrifice by one person for another or others. Unknown soldiers from World Wars I and II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War have been laid to rest here. They symbolize all the soldiers killed in battle whose remains could not be identified. There are many facts about the monument that we could discuss, its dimensions, weight, features, and the men who guard it, but it is the fact that there is such a memorial reminding us of the horror of war, the enormous sacrifices made, and that it is dedicated in 1921 and finished in 1931 that we close with it in mind. Of the World War I unknown president, President Harding said, "We know not whence he came, but only that his death marks him with the everlasting glory of an American died for his country." The inscription on the tomb reads, "Here rests a honored lord, an American soldier known but to God." May the tomb of the unknown serve to remind us of the ultimate sacrifices made for our benefit, the high cost of our freedom, and serve to keep us vigilant in defense in ceaseless search for peace.